Hi, I'm Angus Cress Gillespie, your host here on East Brunswick Television. Today I'm here with Evren Kutlay, who's a visiting professor at Rutgers from Istanbul, Turkey. Her research is focused on Western music during the Ottoman era. She's written 2 books on that topic. In addition, she's released a CD recording entitled European Music in Ottoman Istanbul. For several years, I have been studying the preservation of Turkish culture in the United States among recent immigrants from Turkey. And because of our mutual interests, I've invited her to our studio today. So Evren, what's your current position and affiliation?
I am a professor at Yildiz Technical University, Istanbul. I'm a pianist musicologist, and I work as an associate professor of musicology there. And also, I am the head of music ensembles program.
And what's your educational background?
Well, I went to the State Conservatory in Istanbul. I began at the age of 9.5, which was pretty late for piano instruction. But I was accepted to violin. But I still wanted to pursue my love to piano, and what I did was I went to the violin classes in the conservatory, and at the same time I prepared for 1 year to piano department, and in 1 year I passed 3 classes and then transferred to piano department. At the same time, I went to a German secondary in high school and learned German as my first foreign language.
Wow.
Yeah, and I double majored. And for the university...
One of your majors was math, was it not?
Yeah, I'm going to pass the math now.
Well, math and music do go together.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. After the university entrance exam, I was accepted to Boğaziçi University, which is the Bosporus University, a former Robert College. It was formed by the American government. It's an American university.
Bosporus University, it's named for the waterway between the 2 halves of Istanbul.
It has a wonderful view of the Bosporus.
Yeah.
It's a very nice location.
Yeah.
And I studied BS in math there. It's the top university of Istanbul with American curriculum and teaching in English. The instruction is in English. And I kept double majoring with the piano department at the conservatory. And then I was very much interested in business, marketing, finance, economics classes when I was studying there. And I asked one of my professors where to go in the US, because it was a tradition, in Boğaziçi University. If you want to pursue a higher degree, it's an American college, you go to the US. And then my professor suggested me to go to University of West Georgia.
That's in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's in Atlanta. And there I was accepted to the MBA program with full scholarship. And I also worked as a GRA at the Marketing and Real Estate Department, and also as the assistant of the university professor. And
you picked up a master's in music as well, right?
Yes. And 1 semester later, when I was beginning, when I got there, I began missing playing the piano. And then I asked around where I can, practice the piano. And then I met the music faculty there, and they offered me the keys to the practice rooms. And when they learned about my background, they said, why I don't go for an audition for the Masters of Music program. And then 1 semester later, I was accepted to the Master of Music degree in piano performance as well. So it was like a dream come true to me, because, I loved playing music. I loved playing the piano. And also I was, good with my MBA classes and everything. So I double majored at University of West Georgia.
And then after that, you returned to Turkey to pick up your PhD.
Right. And when I graduated, with the insistence of my family, I turned back to Turkey. And yeah, and I began working at Koç University. Which is again has been a coincidence, and there it was also an American college with instruction English. So I felt like everything is continuing from my education there, and while working there, I also continued with my musicology study in a PhD in musicology studies.
And what is your current research subject?
Right now, I'm working on Ottoman-European musical interactions, actually on European music's effect on Ottoman music during 19th century, which is the modernization period of Ottomans.
So currently, you're a visiting professor at Rutgers. How is your stay at Rutgers helping your research?
Well, it's incredibly helpful, and I would like to thank to you with this question through your invitation letter. When I mentioned you my research, you were very generous to write me an invitation letter to be a visiting professor at Rutgers University, and I got permissions from my university and came here. Rutgers is full of resources, I would say. I'm spending...
It's a very good library.
Yes, wonderful library with all databases and all links to the journals and articles and so on. So I am trying to use my time efficiently. I'm going to be here for 3 weeks, so a very short time for a huge research. Yeah, therefore,
No time to sleep.
No, not at all.
So you've published 2 books. What are the 2 books about?
Well, my first book was published in 2010. It's titled as European Musicians of the Ottoman Empire. And there I tried to cover the musicians, the European musicians who came to Ottoman lands to teach and perform European music. The 19th century was the modernization and westernization era in which music was affected also, and the Ottoman Western music flourished, which was based on music in European style. And there I was trying to cover all the musicians as much as I could, and that was the main subject of the book.
I suspect that a lot of this was new information even to Turks, because of the revolution in 1924, there was a tendency in the Republic to forget about the domination of the sultans in the Ottoman Empire.
Well, I don't know the reason, but still, it was a highly neglected area, let me say. There was not much research put on this subject when I began like 12 years ago. And, but now I see a very developing interest to this subject by the students, by PhD students, by some researchers. There are some, repetitive publications as well, but I find this still valuable because the interest is going to grow in terms of quality as well as quantity. So I appreciate the interest right now, but back then there was none.
Yeah. And the second book?
The second book is actually I wrote it on the orders of the publication house, which was trying to publish a series of something in 100 questions related to the Ottoman history. And they asked me to write about Ottoman music.
It's a formula.
Yeah, it was a form of the series by the publication house. So I wrote...
Do they have 100 questions about other topics?
Other topics in Ottoman history. Anything related to Ottoman history.
That's a very clever idea.
Yeah, it's very good idea. And I was asked to write about Ottoman music, and my second book is based on that. I was trying to answer the Ottoman music history in 100 questions, which was a challenge,
Yeah, it's not the way scholars normally write books. So you also have a CD recording.
Yes.
What's that about?
Well, since I am doing archival research, I am not just, getting some documents, but also some sheet music and also some music publications. So I wanted to be the voice of the history, let me say. So whatever I found, I wanted to hear how it was sounding like, and it would complete my research. Therefore, I kept giving concerts nationally and internationally.
It's not enough just to see the sheet music.
Yeah, and also you want to hear it. You want to hear the history, what's going on. And therefore, I decided to record a CD, which is a solo piano CD, actually. And there, I tried to cover like Sultan composers, the dynastic family composers, or the European musicians of the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Turks who were composing in Western style, in classical Western musical style. And women composers, women were also getting educated in terms of Western music. So I tried to cover a wide range of music and musicians in terms of Western music in Ottoman lands.
So the CD is piano solo.
Yes, it's piano solo.
And covering a wide variety of...
Right.
Yeah, okay. But in addition to that, you also have a number of YouTubes available.
Yes. I saw on YouTube that my videos are spreading out from different sources. Therefore, I decided to have one single official channel, which is named as Evren Kutlay YouTube official channel. There, I'm trying to give some samples of my concerts.
And these are often ensembles with violin and bass?
Yeah, I mostly prefer to perform with a string quartet if possible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I perform solo.
Yeah. How and when did European music enter Turkish lands?
Well, it has actually a long history. The modernization and westernization in music happened in the 19th century, but the Ottoman sultans were long ago aware of the Ottoman, the Western music. Like it goes back to 16th century. Which,
so there are some early examples.
Yeah, there are some superficial early examples, like the gift of the French Emperor Franz I to Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent that he sent in 1543.
That's very early.
Yeah, in the 16th century. And he sent a group of musicians to the Ottoman Empire as a thank you to his help to the French king against Habsburgs.
Ah.
And,
wow.
and the Sultan accepted those musicians, listened to them, appreciated them a lot, but then at some point thought that this is a very intoxicating music and that would, affect their armies, and therefore sent them back. There are many other examples like that that happened before 19th century between the Ottoman Empire and Europe.
And also the Ottoman court, they brought European musicians for teaching purposes.
Right. With the 19th
century,
with the 19th century, everything began in terms of Ottoman Western music flourished. What happened is they first built a music school called Musicology, which was the imperial music school that would teach Western music to Turks. And they employed first an Italian called Giuseppe Donizetti, and he became the director of this imperial music school and began teaching Western music to his Turkish students. And he also initiated some traditions like composing a national anthem that would be dedicated to the reign of each sultan.
So there was a different national anthem for each sultan.
Right, to celebrate the reign of each sultan. The first one that he composed, Donizetti composed, was the Mahmudiya March that was dedicated to Sultan Mahmud II, who brought him. And then afterwards, the following Sultan was Sultan Abdülmecit first, and Donizetti was still the director of the Imperial Music School, and for him, he composed Mecidiye March.
Huh.
I recorded that march, the Mecidiye March, and played many times in my concerts.
Wow. So there's if I hear you right, there's an emphasis on national anthems and on march music.
Right, because everything flourished in military, you know.
Yeah.
First, military bands were formed in European style. And so therefore, the military music was the first area that would, you know, face with Western music.
So they did away with the janissaries.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. They formed a new band from scratch.
For military morale purposes.
Yeah, I mean, they decided that the Janissary Corps were indisciplined, rebellious. They were beginning to lose in the wars, and therefore they decided to form a new army in European style. And they
a more effective army.
Yeah, they thought like that. And then also they decided to abolish the Janissary Music Institution, which is Mehterhane-i Hümayun, and formed a new band music institution, which will be the Musicology Hümayun.
And I understand that some of the sultans were so interested in music that they actually became composers.
Right, right. Like the first composer to compose in European style is Sultan Abdülaziz.
He did the waltz, Invitation to the Waltz?
Yeah, right. He did the Invitation to the Waltz. And he was actually the first sultan also to visit Europe, not for fighting purposes, for war purposes, first and last, but to improve the diplomatic and cultural relations. There, he was welcomed with his own music. I played that Invitation a la Waltz as well in my concerts.
And Sultan Murad V, he also was a composer.
Yes, he was the most prolific of Sultan composers. He wrote hundreds of pages of music in European style.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and he composed in small salon music types, which was popular in 19th century Europe as well. And he mostly composed for the piano. He composed in genres like polkas, mazurkas, Scottishes, quadrilles, waltzes, and also marches. And his music is not published though. Sultan Abdülaziz's music was published in Italy by the publishing house Lucca, but Sultan Murad V's is just manuscripts.
Well, he was sidelined as a sultan, right?
What happened is he has the shortest reign in Ottoman history, namely 3 months, and he was said to be mentally ill, and he was prisoned at Tiran Palace.
But your research on his music said it's impossible he was mentally ill because the music was so precise.
Right. He has no errors or mistakes in this dictating.
This was probably a political move to sideline him.
Yeah, might be. He was a sensitive person, most probably.
Yeah.
He was an artist, you know.
And there's always rivalry in the royal families.
Right, right. That might be the reason.
Well, the European musicians, now correct me if I'm wrong, they were French and they were Italian. And were there Germans as well?
Right, right.
Yeah.
What we see is the Ottoman Western music flourished first in Italian school with Italian musicians coming and directing the Imperial Music School. And then we see some French musicians. And towards the end of the 19th century, we see close relationships, political relationships with Germany, which lasted throughout the first years of the Republican era with the World War. And therefore, we see that the Ottoman Western music was flourishing in German schools. Many German musicians were also coming to the Ottoman lands.
So maybe we should listen to Castillo Guatti's Ottoman March.
Yeah, he is the second Italian director of Musicology Hümayun, Callisto Guatelli.
Yeah. And I was also intrigued, there was the exhibition march, which had a tribute to Great Britain and to France.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Ottomans decided to have an exhibition, industrial exhibition. You know, it's the era of industrialization, and every country was trying to present their goods to other countries. And in that sense, the third of the world exhibitions was done, European exhibitions was done in Istanbul. And to welcome their guests, the Imperial Music School director Callisto Guatelli composed a march which is called the Ottoman Exhibition March, 1863. And there you can hear the British national anthem.
God Save the Queen.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the French national anthem. And at the end, you hear the Ottoman national anthem, the governmental march. So the Ottomans were trying to show their hospitality even through their music.
Yeah, and their cosmopolitan nature.
Right, right.
So who were some of the famous European musicians who visited?
Well, I want to mention, there are many, but the most popular one I want to mention, who is Franz Liszt, who visited the Ottoman Empire in 1847 and stayed there for 5 weeks.
Wow.
He gave a concert at the Ottoman court in front of the Sultan. He composed a paraphrase on Mecidiye March, for which he was, gifted a medal. He was awarded a medal by the Sultan. He also gave some additional concerts in different venues in Istanbul. So it was a long stay. And I interpret his stay also and his concerts also as a long-lasting relationship with the Ottoman Empire, because as we were mentioning Sultan Abdulaziz, Sultan Abdulaziz also donated to Richard Wagner's opera house in Bayreuth. He was the first Sultan to donate. And you know the relationship with Richard Wagner and Franz Liszt? He is married, Wagner is married to Franz Liszt's daughter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Liszt was mentioning this donation with high appreciation in his letters, and was saying that there should be an example to other kings and queens in Europe.
It was like foreign aid from Turkey to Germany.
Right, right, and musical aid, and he was also given for this donation a certificate to Sultan Abdulaziz. And other than that, I would say, like, there are many other musicians who would visit Istanbul, like orchestras, like soloists. So it was a very rich Ottoman Western musical atmosphere back then.
And shifting gears, what for you is the importance of interdisciplinary studies?
Well, as you know, my background is also interdisciplinary. I studied math, I studied music, I have an MBA, about what to talk about finance, economics, and so on. I also am, very familiar with history. So interdisciplinary studies shows that one helps to solve whatever happening in one discipline. I mean, if you're interpreting history, it's not just the diplomatic or economical or political history, but you also should, integrate the cultural and artistic history as well. So it's important to employ different perspectives in the research subject of one area.
Yeah, because all too often history is taught in terms of wars and economic cycles. It's good to bring in culture and music into the mix.
Right.
In your research work, who inspires you? What keeps you going?
I think I have a calling for that. I don't know. Yeah, I like researching a lot. I like finding new things. I like going into the archives, reading about the things that happened in the past. And if I find something new, I get very excited. So how I began to research the subject goes back to my studies in the U.S. because my professors were asking what was going on in terms of I'm a Western classical pianist. And they were asking what was going on in Turkey in terms of Western classical music. And then I went into this subject and tried to research what was going on in my own country and how it was, Western music entered back then. So.
And in your work, do you collaborate with others?
Yes, and in terms of performance practices, yes, I do. I perform solo piano as well as I collaborate from different parts, musicians from different parts of the world. Like I'm gonna go from here to Brussels, Belgium, and I'm gonna give a concert in October with the Royal Conservatory of Brussels String Quartet.
Wow, and so I know from looking at your YouTubes, you often recruit string quartets.
Right.
So that's collaboration.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to, give an orchestral sound to what I'm doing.
And what's your favorite part about this line of work?
Everything completes each other. I mean, I like writing, publishing. I like, going into the international conferences and talk about my subject. I also like finding new stuff. I also like playing by finding. So everything goes hand in hand, I would say.
But playing the piano by itself is not enough.
No. I want to know what's going on with the history and everything.
And let me turn that upside down. What's your least favorite aspect of this line of work?
If I cannot get into the resources efficiently, that disappoints me a little. But still, I don't lose my, passion or, my confidence in getting into those resources. I try my best, but I love the environment if I get a chance, to work efficiently, to reach the resources, to have a good time and atmosphere to work efficiently in my subject. So if you call it disappointment, yeah, a little maybe, but nothing can, change my attitude towards my work.
And I know you're a concert performer.
Right.
Let me ask you an awkward question. Do you ever suffer with performance anxiety?
Sometimes maybe. Right now, a little maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't say it will interfere my playing. Sometimes. I cannot describe it. Not too much.
Not too much.
No.
Do you have any good luck charms or?
Well, I try to be positive.
Yeah.
Nothing specific, nothing material.
And I've seen a number of your videos on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite performance venue, the place you most enjoy playing?
I love big halls. I like performing in international venues in different parts of the world. I like being accompanied by other ensembles rather than being solo, because solo music, it requires much more attention in terms of audience. So if you have a crowded scene on the stage, it appeals more to the audience. So I like performing in an ensemble. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Does the acoustics of the room make a difference?
It sure does. But the main mission is to put my work on stage.
Yeah.
So if I get that chance, that's perfect.
You
Other than that,
you don't want to be too fussy.
Yeah, I mean, there are many things that look forward. I mean, there are many things, but I don't want to be very picky, and I don't want to disappoint my audience.
So Evren, what advice would you give to a young person who wanted to follow your example?
Well, I would say they should work hard, or I would say they should first find what makes them happy to work on. Then you won't feel that you're working, but it's going to be like your hobby or some good time or something like that. That's what I feel when I'm working. So it's not like work, but I enjoy being in this subject and atmosphere. And it's also nice for me to switch from one thing to the other. I mean, if I get tired with the research stuff, then I go to playing. And if I get too tired with the playing, then I can go with writing or presenting. So I like being multifunctional in my subject. So I would suggest work hard, follow your dreams, do not get disappointed for any negative situation, because it's life, it happens everywhere, every time, and pursue your dreams for whatever it takes.
So, Evren, I want to thank you for visiting Rutgers, and especially for sharing some of your experiences with us on East Brunswick Television. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me and for your warm support. Thank you so much.